This is No Man's Sky Sentinel. I'm at a loss of words how amazing this looks and how many cool features it adds. It completely revamps the combat, it adds completely new units that you can fight against, it improves upon so many things, and it adds such an amazing selection of new items that you simply won't be able to not try it at least once and get all of the cool new stuff, which is why we're gonna break all of it down in this video. And of course, we're gonna get a brand new expedition called Exobiology, which according to Hello Games should launch shortly. This will involve likely creature companions, and that's going to be pretty much your only companion for light years according to the description right here. As you journey in this galaxy, you're going to be led to a wealth of animal life to discover, adopt, ride, and of course, milk. Rewards will also include jetpack trails, posters, companion customization, and even a unique robot companion that I honestly cannot wait to see. Now, one of the other rewards that you will get from this expedition is this really cool jetpack called the Royal Jetpack. Basically, it's what you get during the Exobiology Expedition, and again, just like in the case of some of the previous jetpacks, it looks significantly different than anything else you've had so far in the game, and I might argue that it's now my favorite. Now, there's going to be something to go alongside that jetpack, which is the Royal Multitool. Luckily, you won't have to do this during the expedition, and it seems to be acquirable from just normal playthrough, specifically by raiding something called Sentinel Pillars, which are a new type of structure that we will check in just a little bit, that will provide not just this Royal Multitool but also some other types of cool rewards. Might I also add that the Multitool definitely reminds me of a small scale exotic ship. It definitely seems to be that way, but totally let me know down below what is your opinion. In the meantime, let's take a look at some other cool new features that you will definitely want to unlock, one of which is the possibility to craft or well hack your own warframe. So you can steal advanced technology blueprints from Sentinels in the new update and then transform your Minotaur Exocraft into a completely new reprogrammable Sentinel unit. And as you can see, the difference between these two is really big. I mean, this new model is definitely really awesome, and of course all of these pieces can be acquirable and then applied to your Exomech to change it, including of course its color. And we already had a few examples of how this looks in game, and yes, your cockpit view in the first person mode will also drastically change compared to how it is by default. It doesn't just stop here. Exomech combat is also getting an upgrade. Planetary combat in the Minotaur has been made significantly better. Changes include a significantly faster turn rate, the ability to backpedal, mobility and aim enhancements, and of course a few other things that we can see from some of these gameplay shots right here. Might I say that the backpedal is probably the most important, since we didn't have that since day one. But possibly the coolest addition for the Minotaur and this section is the fact that there's now the possibility to install an autopilot upgrade. So travelers can now install a Minotaur AI pilot within their Exomech. This advanced battle computer will allow the Minotaur to follow its master as they explore the planet and better serve as a powerful ally in combat. Of course, please note that the Minotaur AI will always cede control to the primary user of the cockpit entry. Now, if you thought that that's the only Sentinel companion that you can get with you, then you have another thing coming, because it's totally possible to now also build your very own drone companion. So there's going to be a new Sentinel mini story in the game that you can get by collaborating with Iteration Tethys, Polo, and of course a few other travelers on the space anomaly, and then you can go ahead and capture what resembles to be a Sentinel drone that you can go ahead and reprogram to make it your very own companion. I think it looks really awesome, of course likely going to have its own color schemes and customization, and I'm already a huge fan of this update as it is. Now, your own armory isn't the only one that's getting an upgrade. The Planetary Sentinel forces also get a significant one with the Sentinel hardframe mech, which is going to be pretty much an Exomech Minotaur, kind of like yours, but this time around on the side of the Sentinels. So they are heavily armored, they can use their jetpacks, and they also have terrifying battle capabilities, including a flamethrower, which some of these elite forces can now use against you. But of course, we also have the heavy combat drones. Sentinel combat patrols have received a a significant firepower upgrade in the form of the Specialist Heavy Combat Drones. It's a Sentinel patrol drone that discovers transgressions, and these tank-like units are the first forces to be summoned in battle as highly aggressive backup. Then we have the Sentinel Repair Drone. It's a highly agile unit that rapidly repairs other drones, and while themselves are weak and lightly armored, these noble engineers will represent a serious threat if you're not taking them down and thinking tactically. But this brings us to possibly my favorite new type of Sentinel, which is the Summoner Drone, and it does exactly what it says. It will summon reinforcements mid-battle out of thin air, which is going to be another one of those units that you will definitely want to take down if you don't want to get overwhelmed alongside with the previous healing drones. But there's going to be a ton of huge updates to the combat. Of course, drone weaponry also gets a ton of upgrades, and now Sentinel drones can have access to a range of new weapons, including rapid-fire lasers, close-range scatter blasters, and even long-distance explosive mortars. That's also further made better with the improved combat balance and feels, so there's going to be a significant improvement to create a faster-paced, more varied and dynamic experience in the new update in No Man's Sky. So some of these tweaks we have, including for the camera settings, Sentinel health, Traveler and Sentinel weapon speeds, fire rates, hit indicators, rumble, and even camera shake. And of course, we also know that enemies have improved navigation, and not just enemies, the creatures as well. So the underlying navigation of both planetary creatures and Sentinel enemies has been significantly improved, bringing better and more realistic behaviors, as well as allowing Sentinels to hunt the player within buildings and in caves. Of course, there's going to be some new types of structures and activities associated with taking down Sentinels. One of them is the possibility to completely shut down planetary Sentinels, at least for a little bit. So you can go ahead, clear out all of the planet Sentinels by simply defeating the Sentinels summoned at the maximum alert level, and they will stop spawning for a limited amount of time. But you can also do something else, completely avoid combat and instead focus on breaching Sentinel Pillars, which are these new types of structures in the game that you can go ahead and interact, and they will give you some powerful rewards, but also deactivate these Sentinels so that you can avoid large-scale fights. Now, planetary Sentinel Pillars are kind of like these sinister structures that look something like this. You can find them on planets across the universe, and they serve as a highly guarded control post for local Sentinel forces according to its description. If you locate and disrupt one of these, you can be rewarded with stories, weapons, and of course that multi-tool that I was talking about previously that looks absolutely royal. There's another type of Sentinel structure, which is the Archive, but this seems to serve more as a lore purpose, where you can find more about stories of the Sentinels and their history, as well as how they interacted with the universe and some of the other types of travelers and species. There's going to be some new activities when you take down these Sentinels, and cool new upgrades that you will definitely want to focus on. One of them is the possibility to probe Sentinel secrets. So there's going to be a series of quests for this on the space anomaly, where you can go ahead and probe the deepest secrets of these Sentinels. Furthermore, once you defeat these Sentinels, you can also harvest them for some strange materials which make up the anomalous Sentinel upgrades, and these shards, yeah, they will give you another class of anomalous equipment upgrades that look something like this. Now tell me if one of them isn't looking like a freaking melee weapon, because to me the one on the left side definitely looks like that, but totally let me know what's your opinion in the comments below. In the meantime, let's also talk about some other weaponry types that you're going to get in the game, as well as some other upgrades for visuals and everything else in between. One of them is going to be the stun grenade, another one of these multi-tool upgrades that you can research on the space anomaly, and it's basically going to stun enemies with like shock damage that we can see in some of these shots. It definitely seems to be quite useful and seems to have a pretty decent range. Another one is the neutron cannon weapon, so you can now research another multi-tool type of weapon, which is going to be this one. You can charge energy with your weapon and then use it as a rapid fire projectile launcher to deal a lot of close range damage against enemies. But of course, there's another one that I'm a huge fan of, which is the active camouflage technology. It looks really good because it's going to give you the possibility to evade planetary sentinels, and you can easily install this on your multi-tool and then deploy it when in need. It definitely seems like the proper thing a space warrior like us would definitely want. Of course, on a semi-final note, these multi-tool upgrades don't come just alone, but there's also visual effects overhaul happening for literally every single type of projectile, beam, flash, lightning effect, refraction, or impact for every single type of weapon damage you can do in the game. Some of these shots look absolutely stunning, and of course the particle effects in particular are just jaw-dropping. Of course, the physics of the heavy weapon animations also changes, so now when you shoot a heavy weapon, you're going to notice your character flinching back, and of course his body reacting to the force that they used to shoot that weapon with. And there's plenty others in there, but let's talk more a bit about carry capacity. So now for your multi-tool, that's going to get raised from 3 to 6, meaning that in the new update you can now get up to 6 new multi-tools. And the same goes for your companions, from 6 to 18 total companions that you can now hold in the new update. The multi-tool shops also get a rather big improvement, so now the ones you find in the space stations or in the buildings across the planets will have a visual overhaul that will give them better visibility and just make them look a little bit better. Anyway, on a final note, let's talk about a few improvements and quality of life changes, one of which is the fact that we can now finally use multi-axis rotation for, well, pretty much everything that you have in the game in terms of build menus. So everything in the build menu can now be like rotated on its axis, which means you're going to be able to create more interesting new types of structures. As far as performance goes, we have AMD FSR finally being activated, so you can already see some of these results right here when you fully activate them. It almost doubles your frame rates with no perceivable drop in quality. And of course, for NVIDIA users, we also get NVIDIA Deep Learning Anti-Aliasing, which yeah, just like what the name implies, is a much better anti-aliasing technology, which means you're going to like not just get better performance, but also distant objects like some of these pillars or like flagpoles will not be jagged, but rather exactly how they should. This isn't the only thing, there's gonna be a lot more in the update, but I'm gonna leave you guys at it. So far the update looks absolutely amazing, so I'm gonna drop with a ton of tips and tricks as soon as I get it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.